Hello, everybody.
Hey, happy Sunday.
What's up? What's going on?
Happy Sunday. What is going on with y'all? Like, what is happening where everybody is?
Well, down here we got some good weather. It rained enough Friday and Saturday, so we got some sun. So we kind of just chilling. That's what
Oh, I'm jealous.
It's like 70s or 80s.
it's like mid 70s. It's like 70s today. It's like low 70s with the sun.
And do
Dang,
you
that's nice.
consider that cool or do you consider that warm?
That's cool to me. I mean, 70 down here gonna feel different than in Michigan. So
Right.
it's a little
But because even in Michigan, a fall 54 is different from a summer 54. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. So listen, it's Sunday. We are definitely going to go all the way there. I know everybody have read the topic, what we're talking about today. But before we go all the way there, I'm going to ask them, where are we going today, y'all?
Oh,
Yeah, because I'm reserving all this time for this podcast. We going. Where are we going today, y'all?
all the way there.
All the way there.
Where are we going today? All the way there. Let's go.
Hey, okay. So listen, we have Dionte and Ericah back this week. We had a really good podcast with them the last time they were here. So of course, because we have these type of topics, they always go into a part two. I pretty much made it a part two because Dionte said something on the last podcast, and then it just my wheels got to rolling. So we want you guys to reintroduce each other again for the people, and then we're gonna dive right in.
All right. So I'm gonna reintroduce her fast so we can get right to your topics, Q.
Okay.
So this is my wife, Ericah Miller, the love of my life. We are back for part two. And this is who she is. You already know her, but I'm gonna introduce her.
This is my bestie, best friend. It's been my study partner the past 5 years. Black male therapist here. And my husband, Dionte Miller, and he's super cute, and I love him.
I love it. Y'all both super cute together. Y'all
I like how when Erica smiles, her whole face like lights up. Literally.
I know.
Eyebrows, cheeks. I love it. So yeah.
I know. Such a cute couple. Mm-hmm. So we did want to take a little bit of time out this month because it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So anybody who have experienced this, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, we want you to get some type of counseling, help, and know that you can get out of these situations if that is what you're trying to do. Me being a domestic survivor, abuse survivor, I really recommend getting a support team around you because it's a very difficult thing mentally to even go through. I know a lot of people when they say, I don't even know how you could stay. It's just your mind. It's just your mind. I don't have a better way to explain it. Anybody who's been watching our podcast know that I have told several times, Tanya is not only my friend, but she is also like my sister. And, Tanya, she put in some phone calls for me. So she was there. I was mad at her for a little bit, but she came through she came through to let people know that things are not okay. And I'm going to forever say I appreciate that in our friendship, because when you are going through that type of thing, all you thinking is about like, why would you do that? Why would you want to put people on notice about what I'm dealing with? But in hindsight, I'm very grateful for her who have reached out to people that she did, because they came. The cavalry came is what I can say. And I got out. So I appreciate that. And I
called her parents.
Yeah, she did. She called the real people.
The real
not
people. not the girlfriends, because the girlfriends were, no, I called the real people her parents.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I wasn't doing enough and she wasn't listening. So
Yeah, it's a very hard thing. So do you guys have anything you want to contribute? Just to, I don't want to take up all that time, because this is a very hard thing for women and men, because there are men who are abused as well.
Yeah.
So you guys want to offer something really quick?
Well, I mean, from a domestic violence perspective, I think no one should ever stay in a situation like that. And domestic violence doesn't always look like someone is physically beating you.
Right.
You can be abused emotionally, very, very much so as well. So I would always encourage people, man, if you're in a situation like that, my grandmother used to always say, if it ain't right today, it ain't gonna be right later on. So hit that exit door and get whatever support you need, but that's not something that you need to stay in, for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. Tanya, you?
Yeah, just like I preach all the time. When you're going through something, you should have at least one person that you can confide in.
Yeah.
And if that one person is not the strength that you need, then keep finding someone, or that one person should latch on to help get you some kind of help that you need. But never feel like you have to go through something alone, because you don't have to. Just
and you can make it. I mean, look at me. I'm here. I'm here. I could be buried somewhere, but I'm here.
Girl.
So we gonna
glad you're here, Keely.
Thank you. I appreciate it, because it was bad, but I'm here. So listen, guys, we are gonna dive right in. And the one thing that struck me when Dionte made a comment about loyalty and respect, and so that raised my eyebrows a little bit, because, and I've actually been asking this question and have gotten some very, very interesting responses from people. So would you rather have loyalty over respect? Now, I know what my answer is, but what is your answer?
I think they're one and the same, though. Right?
I agree, but there are people who believe they are not. So you explain yours.
Well, it's kind of hard to, and I guess I could see where people would say they're different, because you can be loyal to a fault. Like, I'm loyal because I'm familiar, or this is familiar. You know what I'm saying? The situation is familiar, but I believe that loyalty has an expiration date, because I can be loyal to someone, but that doesn't mean that person is necessarily good for me.
That's true. That is very true.
Take an example of someone that you grow up with in the hood, right? Mm-hmm. That's your partner, that's your friend, you're loyal. But if they go and they start selling drugs and they start robbing banks and doing different things like that, and you're trying to go a different direction, are you going to have this blind loyalty because we grew up in this environment and I can relate to you? No. So answering that question for me, I would say, to me, they're one and the same, but they're not. But I want to be respected, and I want to be, so I
totally agree. Now, I totally agree with what you said. That's how I feel. How do you guys feel?
I would say respect. You know what I mean? I feel like respect is going to precede the loyalty. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you can have loyalty if there's not respect there. But then again, with the scenario he presented, like, you can have people that you're loyal to, but you may not respect
what they're doing,
how they live. And I'd rather the respect. I mean, that's just me.
I would rather. What you think, Time?
I'm a all or nothing type. Like that. But then you hear words like your spouse or someone may make a decision. I don't respect what you're doing, but I love you, and I'm going to keep my mouth shut until we get home, kind of deal.
Okay.
So yeah, all or nothing, but it's different levels to that love too.
It really is. And I think that's what was so interesting to me, because when I was asking people about it, people were like, well, no, loyalty, I could be loyal. And this one guy really tripped me out. He was like, I respect my wife or whatever. And I feel like I'm loyal to her, but if I do what I'm doing out here, as long as I don't bring it home, I respect her. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, no, I'm serious. I mean, I really believe that. I mean, as long as I'm not putting it in your face. I said, but how is that respect though? Because if you're going to respect somebody, you got to respect them behind their back too, right? So if you're going to be loyal to somebody, you're going to be loyal to them behind their back. So if you cannot, I don't think she has either. She doesn't have loyalty or respect if you're not doing that behind her back. So that's the way I look at that. And then you have some people who say, I would rather have the loyalty than a respect. And I don't really understand how that go together, because I don't understand, like Ericah said, how can you be loyal to me if you don't respect me? Because eventually you're going to pick a side somewhere. You know what I'm saying? I mean, who want to be on the side with somebody they don't even respect?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just weird. Like once I start respecting you, like I don't even like the way you chew. So why would I want to be loyal to you? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would I want to be loyal to that? So I just thought that was a really interesting topic, like the way some people really believe. I mean, and to each his own, but I'm going to need, like Tanya said, I'm going to need both.
All three.
Yeah, love, loyalty, respect. I'm going to need it all, because how can you even really sincerely love me if you don't even well,
but you got to keep in mind that people define
I can love people. Go ahead, Dionte. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, people can define those things differently. Like what's respect for me might not be an issue for somebody else, or what loyalty looks like for me might not look like loyalty, or might look something totally different for someone else. And so, like Tanya said, it's so layered.
It is.
It's very layered. And so, respect or loyalty could be, you can whoop my tail every week, but you know what? Because you buy for me, you take care of me, you provide for me, you loyal to me in that regard. Hey, I'm good with that. Some women live like that.
That's very true.
So it depends on what you
quite often.
That goes back to your core beliefs about yourself. What you willing to accept.
I agree. I totally agree.
And then too, like loyalty is more like a character trait, maybe.
It is.
And respect is more like an action or something that you give and like you receive.
Yeah.
Being a loyal person is just something you are, can be or should be from your core, especially when you are talking about your girlfriend, wife, fiance, or whatever. It's a totally different thing. And love could be an action, but it's also could be who you are to your core, like a loving person. Right. But respect is more of an action to me.
I think, and I think those are questions that should be discussed like up front, because what is your definition of loyalty? What are the things that you feel like you can make moves and that is not untrustworthy? I mean, those are things that should be talked about. Anyway, that was just a topic that I just decided I wanted to talk about, but we are going to get over into this other stuff though, because I was talking to them off the grid. And so for me, I was sharing with them, I have seen people, survive infidelity. And really on the inside of my mind, now this is just my mind, doesn't reflect the beliefs of All the Way There podcast, okay? What I'm saying is, for me, I'm thinking in my head, I mean, are these people truly successful and have a healthy marriage? Because I'm only thinking about how I will be responding. I'm not thinking about how other people are able. It is very difficult for me to overcome betrayal. And that is something that I try to work hard at, trying to see that people do make mistakes. But then how many times is a mistake? Like, is a 2-year affair a mistake? One-time affair a mistake, maybe, but is a 2-year affair a mistake? Is this a choice? I will have a really difficult time dealing with that. So Dionte did share some things with me off the grid. So how do you feel? Do you guys feel that a marriage relationship can survive and recover from infidelity?
Absolutely. But I'm going to let you start first.
I would say yes and no. This is a case-by-case basis. Mm-hmm. So you have the spouse who's going through whatever they're going through, or they came there with some baggage and, they didn't resolve whatever it is that makes them be unfaithful in their relationship before they got married. And so It could be, like Keela said, this could go on for 2 years straight. You know what I'm saying? Every month meeting up with your side piece. Or this could be a one-off situation where like I met up with him like 4 times in the span of 3 months. You know what I mean? But if this is like a pattern of a lifestyle, I don't know if it can survive that if the person really has no intentions or desire to change that part of them. But if the person really wants to change things, they really want to work on themselves and their relationship and see it reconcile in a really good, healthy way, then yes. But like I said, case by case. Some people, we just talked about domestic violence. Some people can get popped one time and be like, I'm out. And then you have people, and you can pop them every week and they're going to stay. So I think that's a case by case basis too. You know what I'm saying? Like some people cannot take infidelity and that's okay. And then there's some people who are like, all right, I can deal with it, but we going to fix this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm up?
Yeah, you.
Oh, me? Okay. I think I kind of agree with Eric. I think the biggest thing is having the readiness to change. Like that has to be kind of the intent, right? Because if someone is that's just who they are, then again, I don't think it's going to get any better. That's just who they are. But I think too, and this might even be controversial when I say this, but me and Eric have talked about this extensively. I think you got to get to the core as to why or what caused this person to do this, right? Or what caused this for us to get to this space in our relationship. A lot of times we'll magnify the incident and we'll put so much weight on that and be like, you did this, you're no good. Well, no, you see good people, good women and men who make mistakes.
Yeah,
You have a lapse in judgment, and unfortunately it breaches the trust, but that doesn't mean that mistake defines who they are. That doesn't mean that they're a bad spouse. That doesn't mean that they're a bad husband or wife. So I think getting to the core of where is this coming from is very important. And that's why I deal with my clients who deal with this stuff, right? Let's unlayer this, unpack this. Like, what did you guys bring to this table that caused this, right? No matter who did it, what caused this to get to this point?
And there has to be a willingness on both parties to like really, truly dig deep and just go to, like you said, like the core of it, because it didn't just happen. It didn't just pop off for a reason. Something could have happened way before the person even got married, or just how you grew up and watched everyone else and how they handle relationships. So yeah, you have to be vulnerable in regards to, because I'm thinking of, and I will never name, like 2 couples that went through infidelity. One relationship, outside of the marriage happened over a couple months' time. Another over years with different people. But they found themselves back because they were able to figure out what was going on, what was the core of the whole thing. And honestly, they both appear to be more happier than couples that have been together and never had any infidelity.
Well, that's a good thing.
And because they got right down to it, because they chose each other again. And so when you choose your spouse again after going through something like that, it's just like they've just built like a wall that no one's going to be able to break through, because they put those reinforcements and those safety measures and everything else in place. And they talked. I
think that's very extremely important, because, and then it just don't stop right there with the one talk. Because I'm gonna tell you, for me, it's gonna be many talks, and you were like, I'm just probably gonna leave you because you don't wear me down, and I'm gonna be like, yeah. So I just want to know, you went out for coffee. This thing say $4.99. That coffee only $1. How many coffees did you buy? I mean, and realistically, there are people out there that are like that. I really do struggle with that. But I do know, like Ericah and Dionte said, and Tanya, that there are people who can recover. But Tanya also said something on a previous podcast as well about having to go through building that trust back up. And sometimes that takes a little bit of time. And sometimes people are like, I just wish you would get over it. I wish you'll get over it. But it's sometimes not always just don't go away that fast.
And that person that actually stepped out, they need to be ready to endure whatever that spouse dishes out.
Right.
And it may not be a day or week or a month. Triggers. It could be a trigger. And you just have to be real to answer any question that just might pop up a year later.
And see, that's what I mean by that. And I think you just hit it. It's like it's the triggers. Like it could be months. Like it's not an everyday thing. It could be just months, like a year. Christmas time coming. I'm like,
but it's the maturity that goes with it too. Like if you make that decision to stay, it's still, I don't know. It's just a maturity along with.
well, I'm not mature. So we just gonna say that. We just gonna say that right there. Because if it's a year later and something trigger me, I probably will say it. And just pray for me on that one.
And it's
So
you do, but it's just the way that it comes out, I guess. I don't know.
yeah. So if I say it really slow and nice, it's not as bad.
And then, and I don't know, I've never been in a situation, but then if you say it real slow and nice, then it's probably back to therapy because maybe it's some things that you need to work out too.
Oh, definitely. Probably never left therapy. How about that? I'm just saying. I'm just it's an ongoing thing. But and this doesn't relate to me. So I don't want nobody to be like, dang, she must be going through it. I'm literally just having a topic. I want us to go all the way there because I don't want people like, oh, she must be getting cheated on. No, it's not me. It is not me. Let me make that very clear. But I'm just saying how I have been in the past. So I'm going on past things. Okay. But Dionte, you were about to say something really quick before I go to this next.
Oh no, I was just kind of piggybacking off of what Tanya said. Like, usually there are some unresolved issues on both sides of the fence. Like there's things that are just kind of dormant that this situation just triggers and it comes to light. And so, yes, you have the person responsible for creating the breach in trust, and then you have the person who obviously is, hurt by it. But there's some things that you both have to address within your own lives individually. Like I said, that kind of plays into all that whole dynamic. And so it's really layered. And you can look at it from all different angles, but it's really layered.
It is layered. Tanya, did you have a question? Because I'm okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so we already talked about that one question, right?
Okay.
So what happens, what's the advice you give a person when the person retaliates? And they're like, hey, well, you did it, so I do it. And I know that goes back to the maturity thing Tanya said, but it happens. It happens a lot. So people are like, I will never forget this young lady saying when there was a comment made that, wow, because her husband was out there a lot. Like he was known in the street for being with different women. So it was no secret. And so this person was saying, I don't know if I would be able to do that. I don't know if I'll be able to take like my husband just with these women just in public. And she was like, well, the way I deal with it is I just trust me. If a person is staying this long, then just believe that they've cheated too. And I'm just like, wow. So that's a lot of, to me, that's stress. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm stressed out because I'm not even about to be trying to go and do this tit for tat type of a thing. But what do you say? And now the spouse can't recover from them cheating back.
I think for me, I would ask a question like, what is the intent or the goal of your relationship? Like, what is the end goal, right? Because it is true, hurt people hurt other people.
Yeah.
And so you already know what you felt from a pain perspective, and sometimes pain and hurt will eliminate your need for logic.
It does. That's great.
When you need to be logical, that you'll let that pain and that hurt overtake it. And then to now you're doing things that are completely outside of your character or outside of who you are because you like, hey, I want you to feel what I feel to kind of plug this pain or this void that I have. But in all actuality, all it's going to do is even drive you further into dysfunction.
That's very true.
That's what's going to happen. And so someone who retaliates, I'm not going to judge them and say, oh, you know what, you shouldn't have did that because that's your choice. But what I will tell you is, hey, what is your goal? Like, what do you want from this relationship? If it's reconciliation, then that's not going to get it.
No,
that's
definitely not.
What you're looking for. And it's definitely not going to change him. So that would be what I would ask. It won't.
We definitely need some more counseling, right?
And I would say, I agree with him that that's not going to rectify the situation, and it's not necessarily justified. Although you do understand how if I hit, if you hit somebody, they're going to hit you back. You know what I'm saying? However, it kind of takes you out of your character too. And so the person that you were so angry at and so hurt by, you just became that person, but you're doing it on purpose.
Right.
So now who are you at this point? You know what I'm saying? Like, why are we doing this? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. You got to consider that, because how does that make you look? What kind of person does that make you to retaliate and actually hurt somebody on purpose? Because I hear people who have been through infidelity all the time say, I didn't wake up and say, I'm going to intentionally hurt my spouse.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you intentionally do that, now you going a little deeper. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, definitely digging deeper.
And you're not even considering the factor of how that impacts maybe your children, how that impacts your family dynamic, right? You just reacting off of an emotion that can literally change the trajectory of your family even more than what it's already changed. So I think people don't really think, like I said, it eliminates the need for logic when you're just operating from that space of pain and hurt.
And now if pain drove you to make a bad decision and you didn't say, I'm gonna get them back, because I believe that can happen too. You so hurt, your judgment is toe up.
Yeah.
And you went out and made this bad decision and you feel bad. I would tell the other person who took the first lick, or to hit them first or hurt them first, give the same forgiveness and grace that you would want for yourself.
I agree.
If you guys have a goal of truly,
reconciling.
Yeah. Don't be like, oh, I deserve all the forgiveness, but you can't have none.
Right. Right.
That's right. Yeah. Never make a life decision when you're having a bad day. Even though, I'm sure infidelity, that will bring about many, many, many bad days. But try to look for the better day of it all before you make that life decision to divorce or whatever. But do make the decision to seek therapy, I would say.
And like you guys said, it ends up being about what is the end goal, because we both are caught up in these emotions. Yeah. Well, you both, not me, because I keep saying me, and I don't want nobody to. But I always use myself for an example. But people are caught up in the emotions of the whole thing, and so they make these bad choices. And so for me, what is it going to be? Just a continual tit for tat, or where do we draw the line and say, this is that, we're going to get help, and this is what we're going to do? Because you will look up and years be gone. And like you said, you have to think about your kids. How is this affecting them? Because for one, when you emotionally check out like that, you are not 100% there for everybody, because you got your own agenda going on at this point. And so now your kids are missing out on certain things, like you said, and now you're giving advice from a hurt place. Because I'm not going to pretend like I've never done that. Oh, girl, I don't know. He did such and such yesterday. He probably wasn't even there. You better go check. And you don't want to bleed on other people while you're bleeding. And that's the one thing I try not to do. Aaron got a question.
Oh, yeah. So Aaron said, my ex-wife's mom cheated on her dad. She walked in on her dad hitting her mom when she found out. She brought those insecurities into our marriage. She was jealous and violent, and had an effect on me. The slightest hint of jealousy and violence turns me off. I've been told I am making potential mates pay for old hurts. You think so?
Well, it's very possible that you could be seeing or filtering new relationships through those old wounds. And because that is happening, it can have the impact on, and it could even sabotage a potentially healthy relationship that's right in front of you. And so I think having that awareness to say, okay, is this affecting me? You got to ask yourself that question, right? Like, what am I feeling in this moment? Is this something that I can say is factual, right? I can point to it and say, hey, you are deliberately doing something that I experienced, or is this just me being triggered by something that reminds me of that situation that previously, right? And I think we have to kind of do that self-assessment for ourselves, because a lot of times it is old wounds that's just still bleeding out.
Mm-hmm.
And we filter everything through that.
Yeah.
Now, this is about me, guys. When it's about me, I'm going to say that. When it's not about me, I'm not going to say that. But when one thing about me, I will say that I am guilty of that too, because if a person is really quick to get angry, you know, I'm out. Like, I take flight because I'm like, I didn't deal with that before. And then maybe they are trying to really process some things. I don't know. I don't stick around to see. But just the fact that you got so upset, and in my mind, I'm thinking, why are you so upset? And then like, you like, dang, I tried to call her and I was blocked. So I'm like, because I'm really running from that. I don't want to repeat that. You know what I mean? I don't want to repeat that. So that could possibly be my problem. I probably should go to therapy for that too. I'm just saying that's a good point, Aaron. That's a good point.
I think it's good to communicate what your triggers are and have an idea of what's real and what's not. So I've never experienced domestic violence in the sense of a man, you know, hitting me or anything. But in terms of family dynamics, not in my mom's house, but like in, you know, on her side of the family, like it was like if you buck, like if it got loud, I could guarantee you that there was a fight about to happen. So that's been communicated. Like we can have intense discussions, but please don't get loud because that triggers my fight or flight response or shut down. You know what I'm saying? So if jealousy or getting like extremely angry is a thing, then I feel like that person, that potential partner should have a right to know so they can at least know how to navigate that with you. And then you should have the awareness to know just because, you know, they get loud, that don't mean every time that I'm about to get hit or there's a fight that's about to happen or I need to run to the basement. You know what I'm saying? Like, there should be a balance of awareness on both parts. So like, don't talk to me crazy. Like you can be angry, but I'm going to tell you how it makes me feel. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense. Tanya, did you have something to add to that?
It's just not for relationships the way that we're describing. It's not for the immature. Because if you're not able to self-reflect and look at yourself and be examined by someone else, then being married is not for you. Period.
It's definitely not. Well, I'm always looking at myself. That's why I'm in therapy all the time. But I'm just saying. I'm just talking jack. But listen, okay. Somebody wanted me to ask this question. What do you think? Because they have a really big issue with their person keeping in touch with all of their exes, and it is a big issue for them. And so their person makes it seem like they're just being insecure and jealous. It is nothing going on, but it's a really big issue for them, and it's to the point that they're thinking about walking away because of how the person downplays it.
Again, I gotta ask a question.
What's the goal?
What is the reasoning for maintaining this sense of connection? Like, what value does it bring to your relationship when you have the person here who I'm assuming you love that's in front of you is saying, hey, this is not okay for me. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, what is it that's keeping you to be like, oh no, you know what? That's just my friend. Well, clearly that was your friend.
Right.
But now we're going back to respect. Hey, this is something that's not okay for me. So out of respect for me, can you cease communication and talking to this individual? Now, it's something totally different if you all are friends.
Right.
If you all are friends and have a relationship, that's different. But if this is this is like if I had an ex and Ericah was like, I didn't know you talked to her and I don't even know her. Why are you communicating with her? There's nothing to talk about.
Right.
Especially if I wasn't aware. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that you have to be enemies with all your exes.
Right.
I know a lot of couples that have very amicable breaks, but you got to hold on to all of them. And for what reason?
Right. Why is the door always open?
And you trying to hold on. You trying to leave some hope. What is going what are we doing? You're trying to leave out some hope. What are we doing? And in terms of respect and loyalty, like is there enough respect there for me that you would at least consider how I feel about some or all of, you know what I'm saying? And we can talk from that. Like I won't name her. I really love her, but like an old high school ex, like
this story is crazy.
We're all an ex of his and mine. We ended up on a trip together with a mutual friend. We didn't know we both had, and she went out of her way to show like this is respect, and it ended up being I love the girl to the extent that the person who took us on the trip, we all sat on the front row together with her boyfriend, him, you know what I'm saying? And so there's respect there, and they don't keep in touch, but her and I do. So there can be like friendly dynamics, but what we're not gonna do is hide or disregard your partner's feelings about whomever, insecure or not. Like I feel like it gotta be considered if you're trying to be with something.
I totally agree. So yeah, so for me, if that was an issue that I kept repeating, and I'm like, that's an issue for me, but they just kind of deflected a little bit and just tried to say, you're just being insecure. I probably would have to be done, because to me, like you say, that's not respect. And then at the end, like you say, it all goes back to, like you said, what is the end goal here? Because if I'm dealing with this now before we're married, marriage don't really normally clear stuff up like that. No. It doesn't.
Not a solution.
It is not.
It magnifies it.
So Aaron says, I tend to deal with post-marital trauma with humor. Is that not a good thing? I think it helps.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad thing if that's the way that you cope. If that works for you in terms of your ability to cope through whatever, experiences that were negative in your relationship, it's not a bad thing. I think that now if you're doing the humor to kind of suppress or compartmentalize what you're really feeling, then that is an issue, right? Like kind of like a defense mechanism, so that I don't have to feel what I really feel based off of what happened. So yeah, it can be okay. I think you should still not bypass any feelings or emotions you have regarding it, because you got to feel that. You have to, so that you can heal from it.
And I think for any stressors that we have, you should have a variety of coping tools in your little toolbox. So sometimes it can be laughter, that's emotional release. Sometimes it's gonna be crying. That's an emotional release. Sometimes it might be a distraction. I'm going to the gym because I'm ticked off. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to use a good mix of coping skills. If you're just laughing about all this traumatic stuff that may have happened in your marriage and you only laughing about it, then that's kind of an imbalance of coping skills. And so you're going to have to do better about, like he said, don't bypass the feelings that you need to feel. Laughter can be one of them, but it shouldn't be your only coping mechanism.
Yeah. And just like with Aaron, we kind of knew, because the truth does come out in the joke. And he would just light us up with all kind of jokes. And I'm like, I think Aaron is really hurt. And then he admitted, and so the truth.
And that probably is a safe way for him to do that, because being a man, it ain't easy to be vulnerable and say that I'm not okay.
Right.
So if I can make this like it don't bother me, but it does bother me, and bring some humor to it, that's a safer way for me to say, hello, I'm really not okay, but I'm gonna make y'all laugh in the process. But I'm really over here hurting inside.
But I want to add something too, because so like how Aaron say how he deal with that with laughter. So like for me, okay, I would take that as being dismissive. But then I'm a person who is also, I can also become very sarcastic when I deal with certain things too. So another person can take that as being like, you always got something smart to say, but I'm really just trying to just be over it. So it's really about how people deal with things too. And so like Ericah said about that being communicated, because for me to like not know Aaron, and if he is always laughing every time, and I'm like, so are you just being dismissive? And then like, why you always got something smart to say? And so those two things would be kind of like some bats going at each other or whatever. And you're not really trying to, you just, it's just like you said, a defense mechanism in a sense. And I think a lot of times certain things do come from being in a domestic situation, because you are always in a protect mode. So when people are coming at you, it's like, wait, because I'm not dealing with that again. And so people are like, well, wait a minute, let your gloves down. You know what I'm saying? We're not fighting here. So I think it is about, like Tanya was saying, knowing what your triggers are, knowing, some of the things that you have to deal with, because it filters over into pretty much every relationship that you have, whether you know it or not. And everybody don't know your story. So they're just going to either take you as being either you an a-hole or you just got issues. You know what I'm saying? So, and I know that goes both ways. And, people have said little things to me. I mean, I think I've gotten a lot better, a whole lot better. And I'm just saying that. But Tanya, did you want to say something?
You mentioned, couples therapy or just going to therapy. What are good expectations for therapy? Like, what are good end goals?
I would say don't go in expecting the therapist to do the work to fix y'all. They're there to help navigate whatever your goal is. Some couples come in there and they've already made the decision. We don't even want to be together, but we want to, fix our relationship enough that we can be good parents. Okay, that's the goal, but go in there with the same goal. I wouldn't go in there with one person saying they want to stay together, but they really don't, and the other person doing all this fighting for the relationship. Like, make sure we have the same goal. You know what I'm saying? And really do the work. Really do the work to do that. Otherwise, we just wasting time. Don't go in there. I mean, if you go in there to fight too, still make sure you're going with the same goal. We don't want to fight like this forever.
Right.
We can teach you how to fight fair. You can fight. We can teach you how to do that.
But what if someone does come in and say, I still want to be with him or her, but she doesn't want to be with me? Help us get somewhere. Like, what can be the goal for that? Because I'm sure that's happened before.
Yeah, so I've had clients like that where you've had one person who wants the relationship and the other person who doesn't. And it's kind of layered, because for the person who doesn't want the relationship, right? We have to kind of segregate this out. Okay. You have to get to a place to where you're okay as far as being able to maintain somewhat of a cordial relationship with this person who still desires to be in a relationship with you. As for the person who still wants the relationship, hey, we got to set goals now to what your life is going to look like without this person being a part of it, right? The energy that you're putting into trying to create something out of nothing at this point, you have to put that energy into yourself. Absolutely. And your healing, so that you can move forward and function in a healthy way for the next relationship.
Right.
Yourself. Like, you might not have another partner for 5 years, but
for
you.
Yeah. And a lot of times people who are like that, they have some really, really strong codependencies. It's hard for them to break away from what they know in terms of familiarity. This is all I know, right? I don't know anybody else. I don't know how to be with somebody else. Well, that's because you haven't tapped into your own core beliefs, your own strengths, the things that bring value to your own life, because you're dependent on them providing that for you. And so
that was a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, but I see that a lot. And it's getting them to kind of reprogram their mind like, hey, I have to start looking like, what is my life going to look like now without this person? And how does that look in a healthy way?
And I'm sure that's tough, because they probably come to you guys thinking you have like that magic pill that you don't make somebody love them, or take them back or receive them. And
And one thing that I always say too, if a person decides that they do not want you, just let them free.
You got to.
And I know it's easier said than done, but in the end, you'll just really be stressing yourself out, because if a person is continually saying, I don't want this, then even if they decide to stay because it's what you wanted, eventually that day break is going to come. And so I would rather heal now then hear later when you say 6 months down the line, I already told you I didn't want this. You know what I'm saying? So don't put yourself through unnecessary stresses. You're going to be stressed, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Just start the walk.
Stress,
right. And so Nikiba says, it is very important to know your triggers. When you discover them, you must talk to your partner about them. That is very true. Sometimes it's weird because I know some triggers, but sometimes I don't know them until sometimes they happen.
Yeah.
So, and they obviously don't happen like they used to happen when I very first got out of that. That's been some years, but yeah, I think that you should talk to, and I'm not going to lie. When I very first kind of got back into the dating scene, there were certain things I did not say because you're thinking, I'm not trying to run this person off. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, don't do this and don't do that. And please don't say yes on the 3rd day of October and don't say this. I'm making it funny, but I'm just saying because you don't want to overwhelm people. And I know that some people will drop all of that on you. And for me, that's a lot to inhale. And so now I'm gone because you didn't tell me everything.
And I would even question people on the language you use when you're sharing your triggers, because what you just said was don't do this, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And it sounds like a lot of directives and
exactly
legalistic, whereas opposed I could say when you get passionate and your volume gets loud, then that makes me feel like a fight is about to happen. Even though, you know what I'm saying? So
no, that makes sense.
When this happens, it makes me feel this.
That's an I statement.
That's a little easier that's an easier pill to swallow as opposed to be like, don't yell at me, don't call me past 9:30, don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many rules. You're like, I'm good.
No, really. No, I really just experienced that, and it was just a lot. And I was like, wow, this was like the first day, and I'm like, this was loud. This was a lot to take in. And so I'm like, I'm gonna get back with you. And they're like, really? Like, what do? Like, you really ran down your whole entire life, and this just was a lot. You know what I'm saying? So now at this point, I don't even want no parts of this because it's just too much. Yeah. So you must talk to your partner. Okay, so she kind of was saying the same thing. Trigger. You must wait. Yeah, most don't know until you get triggered. Yeah, that's true sometimes.
And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I was going to validate Keela for a second because she mentioned her triggers a few times. And I'm like, yo, triggers aren't necessarily bad. Mm-hmm. Like, we label triggers as being negative. Like, oh, you triggered. And really, what I've learned through my own life and going to therapy is that when you're triggered and you respond out of that trigger, you're just unregulated emotionally and you're trying to regulate yourself, right? So whatever that looks like, you're like, I'm just trying to get back to this stable space. And so for me, it could mean I got to go. Like, I can't come out. This puts me back into a space to where I'm regulated. But it's you being able to balance that and say, okay, if this is someone worth staying for, then I have to communicate how that makes me feel.
Right.
And then you have to work on, I'm not running, I'm going to stay. But if I run, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. You know what I'm saying? And so triggers aren't always bad, but sometimes we just look at them as negative and be like, oh, they triggered, I'm out.
Yeah, and I think it too has to be a balance. Just like you tell someone your love language or how you want to be received and how you want to be loved, you should also share, this is what triggers me, but just don't overdo it, you know.
Yeah.
And this triggers than you would with how to love.
I think the more time you spend with people, you know, they'll be revealed, but like how you guys say, it's about the communication and things now. I mean, obviously, because that's been some time ago. I mean, I'm able to like, you know, like, I don't appreciate that, but these are for people who like really deal with this stuff, because I know people who are actually kind of going through. But Tanya says something earlier, and it's going to come back to me, but I don't really want it. I wanted to go back to that point. Anyway, guys, being out here. Oh, I know this wasn't her point, and I pray it comes back to me before we end the subject. But I find a lot of people deal with abandonment issues, and that is something that I've never dealt with, and this is really a hard thing because sometimes those people can be very clingy, and so that's a hard, you know, type of especially when it's adults, because for me, it feels like to be a very, and I don't mean independent, like the independent strong woman don't need a man type, but just a very independent person. I can work independently. So I've come across a lot of people who have really severe abandonment issues. So, and to me, that's like, wow, we're adults. But I guess that goes back to maybe some childhood stuff. So how do people who want to try to build a relationship with somebody deal with a person with abandonment issues?
I was it starts with awareness. Like, where is that coming from? You know what I mean? Like, if Dionte stayed at the golf course for 6 hours and my mind started going like, he ain't never coming back. Like, what part of my life, what version of Ericah is that coming from? Is that coming from 6-year-old Ericah, responding to, some sort of parental issue that wasn't resolved? Like, where is that coming from? And then take that awareness and, say, okay, that's a different person. That's a different situation. And don't respond to him as if, you know what I mean, he's that person. You know what I'm saying? One thing my therapist said to me, she's the bomb. She was like, sometimes we respond to people for the actions of other people, and that's not fair. They shouldn't have to stand in proxy for someone else that is responsible for that. So, you could say, no, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to do that today. That's not even abandonment. That may mean just like a not right now. It's not
right.
It's not, I don't ever want to do with you. It's me being an ambivert. Sometimes I mean my introversion. So she was like, sometimes you have to put it out there. I'm not abandoning you, but this is what I need right now. But I promise I will circle back to you because you're important to me. You know what I mean?
Very nicely put. I really want to get nice like that, Ericah. Because I'll be like, look, now you didn't call me twice. Now I'm not. Don't call me back. No, I'm just kidding. I'm working on that. This episode was slightly for me, guys, but that all wasn't about me, just so you know. But because we all really have stuff we working. We got to work on too. And sometimes you got to just kind of look within, like, why aren't some of these things kind of happening? You got to deal with some stuff for yourself, And sometimes I do know, and sometimes I'm just like, I'm out of here. So that's an issue. But Tanya, you have something else to say? Because I cannot think of what I was going to try to say, and I don't want to spend like quiet noise time trying to think of it.
No, I'm listening unless Ericah and Dionte has something more to say.
You didn't touch on the abandonment thing.
Oh, you mean as far as how do you be with someone that suffers from that, or just how do
you respond to that?
That's it. It's tough. Especially when those are not your issues, and it's the other person that's experiencing that. I think you have to, the awareness, like she said, it has to be there. And for the person who's experiencing the abandonment, I always encourage them to challenge those thoughts. Like, what about this situation proves that they're abandoning you, right? Because they said, hey, you know what? You have the right to say, hey, I don't really feel like talking today. That's your right? That doesn't mean that, hey, I don't love you, I don't care about you, that we won't talk tomorrow. They're just saying in this space of time, hey, I just don't have the capacity to talk. And so they have to, or the person experiencing this, they have to get in the mindset of being able to challenge that. It goes back to what I said, facts versus feelings. What do you have proof of that says that, hey, this abandonment is real? What proof do you have that contradicts that and say this abandonment is not real?
Right.
And you have to do that. And so it's a hard thing, because you're right, that stuff stems from childhood. And it's the core belief that they created about themselves. So they live their whole life that way. And guess what? Now they're adults, and it's more magnified. It's harder to break. And now they overcompensate in relationships just to feel chosen. And that's what's happening. And so it's not easy, Keela, but, it takes some work to kind of break that. You know what I mean?
It do, because that's a tough one.
We have two children that are. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tanya.
No, go ahead, Ericah. It's okay.
I was gonna say we have two children that are polar opposites, where one really enjoys his solitude, and then he likes to come out of his shell and play with the family, and then he'll go back in his room for 4 hours. Then we have our youngest, who's an extrovert. So when people want to go to their rooms and we all want to chill in this lovely home, she is like freaking out, like everybody with me. You know, she's
like that too.
And I have to try to reframe her language, and I say, we're not avoiding you. Everybody just wants some alone time. Mm-hmm. And so I try to encourage her to learn to be okay with that. She's 5, so we're still working on it. But you know, I'm trying to start now so that one day when she's in a relationship with somebody and they want to watch sports for 3 hours, she don't interpret that as rejection.
Right.
Or you're saying something's wrong with me, so you don't want to be around. You know what I mean?
But I like that you deal with that now. She's 5, not 45.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that people can't go through that at 45. The point I'm making is she's 5 and she don't have a clear understanding just yet. So it's a little different when they're babies than when you're trying to deal with somebody that's 45 and they're like, oh, well, you went to the store, you didn't call me, you didn't tell me, I mean, you didn't go. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I've been going to TJ Maxx for a long time by myself. You know what I'm saying? But Tanya, what were you about to say?
I was going to piggyback on something that was said. It's work and it takes time. So, and you have to be able to be willing to put in both, because you may not know how someone they really are. Just spending a week with them, 2 weeks with them, because eventually their true person is going to come out. So good thing, like when you were dealing with that came out right away, and you knew right away that this is not for me. But there is someone for everyone, because there may be a woman that have patience to deal with those insecurities and want to balance them out to bring out the best in him, you know, because obviously you already know it's not you.
No, and I'm okay with it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, I'm okay with it, because like you say, it's somebody for everybody.
Yeah, it takes work, it takes time.
It does.
On alone, I have my son is like that. Oh my goodness! And he wake up like, so what we doing today? Can we just like sit?
Can we just chill?
Can we just look at each other for 5 minutes and not have to worry about what we're doing later on?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you guys for coming back for part 2. Thank you for diving deep. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Thank you for being extremely transparent and, you know, adding some humor in there. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. You guys are always, well, we would love for you to always be welcome here. If we ever have some subjects to talk about, we love you too. And we'll be reaching out with some other things that we have coming up like in November, but we'll talk to you guys about that off the grid. But anyway, guys, we want all of you to listen to what they were saying. And then Tanya, in like a really quick second, she's going to give you guys a challenge. Oh, look at your face. She's going to give you guys a challenge really fast.
Oh, maybe do it. I don't know. Do you guys have one?
A challenge for the people for the week.
I would say for the people for the week, man, be intentional about identifying your triggers. Know what your triggers are. And once you identify those triggers, start thinking about how do you want to learn how to work through those triggers so that it's not impacting your relationships in a negative way.
Right. I like that. Very great advice.
Because everybody knows their triggers.
What were you saying, Erica?
I was just going to say, like, reframe your verbiage and how you communicate. Like, instead of don't do, or you be doing, when this happens, I feel. And
I'm going to incorporate that. When this happens, I feel.
You just gave y'all an I statement. That's what we use in therapy. That's what
okay. I like it though, because a lot of people probably should learn and use that because it'll translate different, you know, because then I don't have to be so defensive, you know. Yep. I like that. And then so Nakiba says the Millers are the dopest. They are. And you know, you and your husband were supposed to come back too, but we'll talk about that another day. So Tanya, we want everybody to have a wonderful week and take the challenge. And then we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Bye.